That's why he's so able to connect with everybody is because he's generally just
We are
Go get a koozie real quick.
we are live.
Live.
We are
just in
live.
time.
Yep. Hello,
Hello,
everybody.
friends and brothers. Welcome to Masonic Improvement with my junior co-host Justin Jones
You know it.
and the crew.
You know it. Nice. So what's interesting is most of the people that are usually commenting are now on Zoom, but
Yeah,
it'll be good.
that's
It'll be
funny.
good.
That's funny.
You got Devin McLean in there. David Lawson's in there. What else we got?
Nice.
So Justin, I wanted to tell you something.
Uh huh.
Um, how cool is it for you and Dennis actually to know that we've had three young men who have started watching Masonic Improvement live, and now one of them was just initiated as an EA like 2 weeks ago. We're going to initiate another one this coming Thursday, and then one is we've started an investigation on, and we're going to vote on that in a couple of weeks and get him
Man,
in.
that
How
that
cool is
gave me
that?
goosebumps.
That's
That gave me
awesome.
goosebumps. That's
That's
man.
awesome.
That's what
That's
it's
really
about.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're here for. Not only are we here to support the brothers that, just aren't getting the Freemasonry that they thought they were going to get, but we're also here to introduce people to the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that is awesome.
Well, there's
That
just
is
so
so
many,
awesome.
there's so many misconceptions out there. Like even the people, I'm not talking about conspiracies. That's a whole other thing. But a lot of people think you have to be invited, you have to have a bloodline, yada yada yada. I assumed that I was going to be a shoe in because my dad and my granddad are Masons, and so that's why I asked my dad. It's like, hey, I know you're a Mason. Does that mean you can invite me in? But so it's a common misconception. A lot of people think you have to be related or have that bloodline, or they have to reach out to you and invite you, which I think is why you see those Illuminati scammers so prolific, because a lot of people think you have to be invited, and so they capitalize on that.
Yep. Now, now that we're live, I got a question for you guys. It was one of the posts that came up today that I saw by Brother John Nagy, and I love that brother. He is so smart from Florida,
Mm-hmm.
so smart, so intelligent, thrives on education and enlightenment. So his post was, is the what is the one thing? What is one thing? Not the one thing, but what is one thing you've seen a master mason say that he never should? And I'd like to know what each one of y'all, if y'all each have an answer different, that would be cool. I'd like to know what thing that is. I'm going to throw it out there that I wrote on the post to kick it off. But I said, saying that there are no secrets in Freemasonry.
Mm.
It completely devalues our whole system of of ritual and rites of passage, and it just devalues us all together. What are some others that y'all that really make you ill? That way, the listeners that are out there, if they hear this from somebody, they'll know that that's not really how Masons feel. That's how some goofball feels, and don't listen to them. Join anyways.
That's not how we've always done it.
That's a good
That's
one.
everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's like the worst thing.
Now, I might be a little ignorant on this topic because I'm not Yorkite, but I'm pretty positive there's like a well or something like that gets used in one of the degrees. But we had a pretty brand new Master Mason that really wanted to help the lodge building out, like to get the lodge building in better shape. And I'm not going to speak too much into it, but he brought up some really good stuff, and he was willing to really help out. And after the meeting, he got told that he better watch out or he might go down that well. So
Oh
that
my
was pretty
goodness,
Wow.
that
disheartening.
is terrible.
I've been a Texas Mason since 2009, but I was in the Marine Corps for over a decade, so I was away for a long time and came back in the last year, and kind of hearing that was just pretty disheartening, especially when it's somebody that just recently, was raised and was expecting something different.
Yeah.
Yes, that's terrible. That is terrible. Talk about deflating.
Well, I'll say this, and I know we got two hands up. It's part of one of the degrees. It's not necessarily it's not a negative connotation in the degree. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I don't know how it was portrayed. It might have been saying, hey, if you're going to get involved, we might bring in the Yorkite, that kind of thing. But it sounds like it was not conveyed in the. I think a lot of people try to be witty when they're trying to talk Masonic stuff, and it comes across the wrong way for people that just aren't informed. Talk about someone going down a well if they don't know what you're talking about. Granted, it's not really a well; it's more of a cave. But some lodges actually had
there's
like wells and things in their office.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's what we had.
Oh, okay.
It was a negative connotation. The Yorkite hasn't really been active in our lodge in a few years,
and I don't know of any lodges that have.
We're one of the few lodges that actually own our building, so it's been around for a while, but it doesn't get used.
Yeah, my old one had one, but it's covered up. But yeah, if there's no York right there, they just threaten to throw you down the well. That's definitely bad.
Yeah,
definitely. All right,
there's one in Brazos Union's building too.
Oh wow.
Oh,
wait,
nice. I want to see those.
Brazos Union. Where's that at? Is that
downtown Bryan?
Downtown Bryan. Interesting. Very interesting.
North College Station.
Got you.
Come down to that area. We're in Navasota, so
nice.
Very
Scott
cool.
knows.
Nice. All right. Let's start with
who
Austin.
was first, Jason
I think Austin was first because he's the top left. I think it goes like in order.
Okay.
I think.
Go for it.
I don't know. What do you got, Austin?
Well, there are several. First one is you get out what you put into it. Like, I'm not a fan of that phrase. Or reliable. That's how we've always done it. That sends me down.
Only one.
I was agreeing, so it's technically still one. But you get out of it what you put into it. That to me just screams like somebody's just kind of lazy and
lazy. Yes.
Trying to impart something on somebody. Well, you just get out of it what you put into it. Well, 90% of the lodges will only get green beans and minutes out of masonry because that's what they put into it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, there's some truth to the statement, but when somebody actually uses it to somebody else, it's really a form of laziness.
Yeah.
There's truth to the statement that we have to be involved in we have to work and live and do our Freemasonry with intent, right? If we're not intentional about our Freemasonry, we're going to miss out. But if somebody tells you that, they're just using it as a cop-out and being lazy, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well,
unless it's a close that's really trying to
I simply agree.
I also agree that you do get out of what you put into it. But because usually who's being told is a new Master Mason, they just turned in their work, they don't really know what to do at this point, and they ask a mentor, and they say, well, you get out of it what you put into it now. And that's not reassuring because from their perspective, they're looking out, and it's a wild, wild world with countless paths and countless little side quests that can go on in Freemasonry, and they don't even know where to start. And that's like you said, it's lazy. It's the mentor saying, okay, I'm done. I taught you everything you have to know. Go play and figure it out. And I don't think that the mentorship role, that's more of a coach role, right? I don't think the mentorship role ever really stops, right? If you wanna coach someone on the work, fine, that's fine. But don't call yourself a mentor because a mentor is there with you the entire way. And they should have built that relationship.
It's more of a personal relationship.
Yeah, they should have built that relationship to actually know, hey, this guy's really interested in learning the work. This guy's really interested in maybe going, studying some other, he really likes degrees or something like that. And they need to be able to say, it's not what you, that's probably applicable at one point, but I don't think that's something you actually ever have to tell anybody because if they get really active and they start getting lots of value, they'll look back and say, wow, it's like the more I put in, the more I get out of it. But it's not something you have to tell anybody. It's just one of those, it's a lazy blow off thing. Encourage them to pursue the things they're interested in, and they will get that value. So when they say, what do I do next? You should probably look at getting a certificate because you really enjoy learning the work. Or, hey, you should start getting involved in some degree teams. Yada, yada, yada. Whatever that relationship has conveyed to that mentor, that should be where they're directing them.
Or
Hey,
even
Scott, real quick before we go ahead.
Or, as you're getting and working with that guy going through, you find out what their interests are, and you start that network with like-minded guys, and they go down that path. Like, there's a lot of guys who thoroughly enjoy the fundraising, and that's what they really want to do. Nothing wrong with that.
We taught mentorship in officer leadership training for that very reason, so that the lodge can get focused on mentoring these people as they come in and matching them with the right kind of people that fit their personality and their goals in Freemasonry. And that way you have that better connection and that closer connection that's going to keep somebody in the lodge more times than not, than just letting them try to figure it all out by themselves.
Exactly.
Scott, why don't you tell the world what Robert Marshall says? Because I think that's a profound statement, and it's exactly what we should be doing. Completely opposite of what happens in most places.
So I believe this was on an episode of was it on Historical Light years ago? And I believe it was Justin was on there actually, and that phrase "you get out of what you put into it" was brought up, and some discussion was had on it at the time. But Brother Marshall said this, and I never ever forgot it. He said, something that should also be put into that, put at the end of that is like a lodge gets out of a man what a lodge puts into a man.
Exactly.
And that's absolutely 100% correct.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which is
exactly.
Why they should
that's the way it should be.
Which is why they should invest in their leaders and send them to OLT, among other things. But yes, I remember him saying that. Now that you pointed that out, and he's 100%. I agree. Jason's been very patient.
Go ahead, Jason. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So probably the most egregious ones that I've seen that really kind of should never come out of a Master Mason. So I don't know how many of you are part of the Eastern Star. All right. So in Eastern Star, obviously, it's both men.
Hey, Kadeem just joined.
I mean, my wife is the current worthy matron for her chapter, and the thing with the Eastern Star degrees or the rituals and stuff like that is they've taken what we've done and then cranked them up where they are super complicated. But the most irritating is the amount of introductions that take place in an Eastern Star meeting, and then at the grand level, these introductions can go on for hours, where they have to introduce everybody because they're on this committee or this subcommittee, and it goes on and on and on. And when they've tried to change anything to streamline it or anything like that, you get these Master Masons who I don't see anywhere else in Texas Freemasonry. And they'll go, well, if you change this and you don't introduce properly, then it's unmasonic. And they have got these lady Eastern Star members believing that they have to do everything perfect, that their ritual is it's so critical that if you change it or you streamline or you make a mistake, that it's unmasonic and it's this and that, and you're like, what are you guys doing? This is like, you want to walk over and to the grand level of Eastern Star. I'm like, guys, this is not what Texas Freemasonry is about. What are you telling these ladies? And I can tell you, like, this afternoon, we went to an Eastern Star practice because we are balloting at the next one. And they've got it so complicated on how to ballot that it borders on the ridiculous, that you have to turn this way and it goes in this officer order and then it goes in this and then you have to do this, when it ultimately, what does it come down to? How many black cubes and how many white balls do you have? Yeah. Is ultimately what it boils down to. That's what's important. But they have got them so spun up, claiming that it's unmasonic and it's this or that and that you have to do that. It's ridiculous. And
I've heard
and
that
it's shameful because I sit there and I go, this is not like, stop putting this on masonry. This is not masonry. Like, this is you guys have taken this and made it how you think it should be, and it's not. This is not Masonic. So that's
roosters in a hen house trying to show their feathers.
That's I'm never mind. I'm done.
I had heard that
we're live. Never mind. I'm not gonna say anymore.
The opening and closing for Eastern Star was pretty ridiculous as far as like how many people it took and everything. So that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I will say this, and I know Justin Herachetta has his hand up. Wait, Herachita.
I was waiting for you to say it because
Herachita has his hand up.
Because you're the one who butchers it.
Yeah. So I know Justin has his hand up, but I'll say, how many of you heard Chris Williams give his talk? What was the title of that speech? It wasn't "There's No Texas Without Freemasonry," is it, Dennis? The one he gave at the summit.
Well, that's what it was going to start as, but I don't know that it ended that way. I don't think it was totally about that.
So he makes a comment.
He adjusted.
He makes a comment during that presentation that we have a lot of members in Texas, but we don't necessarily have a lot of Masons, right? And so I kind of get in trouble nowadays since I heard that, because when someone tells me something is not Masonic, I tend to say, well, you most of the people here haven't really practiced Freemasonry in a long time anyway, so don't criticize me on what's Masonic and what isn't. So so don't tell me
That's
what's
funny.
Masonic and what isn't when you don't even know how to practice it yourself. And that just because Jason said that the introductions are Masonic. It's like, don't tell me what's Masonic and what isn't. Justin, go ahead.
So, real fast, I mean, I kind of wanted to touch on, before I get into what I've heard a Master Mason say, kind of going back to what you get, what you put into it. I've heard this said several times, and I've heard it said as a cop-out, but a lot of times I myself tell it to some new Masons, and I think majority, though, from what I've heard, they all just kind of mean, because the lodges that I've seen, we get Masons that come in. Obviously, they have some sort of expectation of what they're going to get, the secrets, whatever it may be, and they just disappear. As soon as they get that third degree, they disappear. You never see them again. And yes, that's for two reasons. I agree, but when I tell that to a Master Mason or a new Mason, I tell them, hey, it's all going to depend on you. Because if you're not showing up, then you're not going to get a whole bunch out of it. You're not going to get to see what it really has to offer you. And not just the lodge, but Masonry in general. Because,
Right.
But it is a double-sided sword, because if you do have that new Mason and, they go, head first and they dive into it, they've got time and they're putting that time in, which is what I want. I want to see Masons doing that. And the lodge is not upholding their end, then that is a huge problem. I mean, that is a crippling problem, I think, in Masonry all over. But when I and several others that I know, when we tell a new Mason, that's what we mean. Hey, if you're just half-assing, or if you're just
now you've done it. Just play.
Gosh,
Don't be a dentist.
You pull
Come
the
on,
Yates.
don't be a dentist.
the last time I ever get to be on a Zoom again, it was fun, guys. No, if they're just showing up half the time, like I see a lot of Masons do, and it's really sad. If they're, I tell them, I mean, it's one thing if you just don't have the time, obviously, but they don't ever show up, and then they come back. I'll see them in passing. I was like, hey, what happened to you? Where you been? Is everything okay? And they're like, yeah, I just, and they'll straight up tell me, well, I thought this was going to happen. I thought I was going to get this. I thought this was going to. I'm thinking, well, I mean, what did you do to find out about this? And they're just like, whatever. Well, then that's on them. But going to
well, yeah, they do need to show up. They do need to show up.
Going to what I've heard a Master Mason say. I mean, obviously, I could use a week-long Zoom meeting to tell you what I've heard Master Mason say that I don't think they should have said. But probably the most notable being one time I heard. Well, actually, not one time. I actually hear this quite a bit. Somebody will say during either a practice for a degree or something like that, they'll come out and say, well, Committee on Work says we're not supposed to do this anymore. But obviously, we're going to do whatever we want to do. And they're telling this to everybody, new Masons. And I'm looking around like, yeah, I mean, not being a stickler for rules, but if Committee on Work says we're not supposed to be doing this in degrees anymore or ever, I've heard it said for a ballot once. I've heard it said for something as simple as whether or not we're going to turn the lights on or off in a certain part. And I'm just, the new generation is hearing that, obviously, and they're getting this assumption that, we can just do whatever we want. And
right.
Yeah.
That is bad. Now, I like seeing the lighting changes and stuff like that and some of the dramatization that's done, but I do agree that you wouldn't want to make that statement, though. You wouldn't want to tell people that, we're blatantly going against, Grand Lodge recommendation. That's just wrong. That sets a bad tone, just like you said. But I do agree that some of that stuff is kind of cool. I'm not going to tell people to do it or not to do it because, there's probably somebody watching just to throw some charges against me. But I will say that if it happens, some of the things are actually of benefit. But I definitely would not tell somebody that we're just going to disregard what Grand Lodge says, because that's really we take an obligation to support the laws of our grand jurisdiction. So we need to, uphold our end.
There are definitely some positive things you could do that are creative and have a great impact on the value that the candidate receives. But I would never condone anything that goes against the Committee on Work, even if it would be awesome. I would not condone it. So
that's such a blanketed statement, Justin.
By the way, if someone was asking about that coin a minute ago,
here, let me pull your head out.
Was talking. That's the Faith Lodge coin. I go through my coins sometimes as we do our Zooms because I don't know. I gotta have something to do with my hands.
Little pretties.
Yeah, my little shinies. This is still one of my. And I don't know. I know you. I'm sorry, Adam. This is still one of my favorite ones right there.
There's one thing the Marine Corps did to me is we're really big on challenge coins. So
yeah,
when I see a coin, like I get all flustered and excited.
So this one is from Austin Lodge. So it's makes it even more interesting now, I think. That's all I'll say.
I figured it would be an appetite for crayons, Brother Allen.
Yeah, definitely that too. I mean, as you can see, I have the shirt on. It's
Adam, what do you got for us, brother? Sorry.
Briefly, the two things that I can think of that come to mind that were disappointing that I heard a Master Mason say, and these are both two different guys, but the first one was that I was having a conversation with him and he told me that the obligations didn't mean anything to him. And I think that's pretty self-evident why that's disappointing.
Yeah.
The second one was at an annual communication. I think the second one I went to, and I think he brought it up. We were at that bar in downtown Waco. I forget what the name of it is, but it's the one that everyone goes to. Yes, I think it was Southern Roots.
Yeah.
And
right.
I'm not gonna say who it was, but he brought up something about Prince Hall. I don't remember what it was, but he was like, yeah, me and everyone at my lodge didn't support that because we didn't want the homies coming visit our lodge. And that was pretty disappointing.
That was the point that I wanted to bring up.
That was pretty disappointing to hear too. And since those two, I mean, there's other things too, but those kind of things, like, you could ask Scott. I've become obsessed almost with guarding the West Gate, because it's like both of those guys, like, they are Masons now, but they shouldn't be Masons. Like, I wish they wouldn't be Masons. Yeah. It's like, because they're not upholding Masonic principles. They're not even trying.
They're members. They're members.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to put it. They're dues paying members, but it's like, are they actually Masons? Well, only by technicality. Yeah. And it's like, that kind of stuff really depresses me. There's a lot more good Masons and good people in Masonry than there are like that. But just, when you run into those guys, it can be pretty demoralizing. It's like, why are you even here?
Because they'll eventually, they have a vote in their lodge, and they'll possibly have votes at Grand Lodge one day.
Yeah.
So,
that was a sitting martial master that said that to me.
That is unacceptable in any way, shape, or form. That's, oh my gosh, I gotta say, I'm not a fan of the Confederate degree that goes on. My family's always been in
Didn't
the
they
South,
kill that?
But no, they still had it. That one, they still had it
here in Texas.
But yeah, it's right there on the border somewhere. In East Texas.
Oh, okay. The Louisiana border.
I can't remember.
We got a lot of borders in Texas, man.
Yeah.
Usually we say the border, you're talking about Rio Grande or something.
All around us, there's borders. But, I'm not a fan of that. I could be in the, what's that group? The Confederate, whatever.
Sons
but I choose not to.
Revolution or whatever?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Sons of Confederate Veterans, yeah.
I don't want to be associated with that, because the people I've seen that join that don't join it because of the rich heritage of the Southern folks, building up this country. They're joining it. A lot of them are joining it because of, exactly that, racism, and wanting to keep that alive. And I'm just not there. I'm not gonna be there. I can't stand people that devalue another human life like that.
Yeah, we had a Robert E. Lee Lodge in one of my districts that it demised, fortunately, but it merged, and there's actually, I think there's two other R.E. Lees or Robert E. Lees lodges here in Texas somewhere, and the one of the most racist people that I've ever met is actually a Mason, and he's from that lodge originally. So very, very disappointing.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
why don't you check the board, Justin? Go ahead, Justin.
I just wanted to throw in there that, and Kadeem can back me up. One time we were talking about, somebody had brought up something about Prince Hall lodges and the treaties and stuff, and there was a brother that got on there from Texas, and he just openly, absolutely said, I'm not for it, and my lodge will not let them in, will not let anybody from Prince Hall in. And, I
kicked him out.
Yeah. And
I voted him out of the group.
That's good, because, it upset me. And because, we're very good with our Prince Lodge here in where I'm from. And I just can't believe that, if you feel that way, it's one thing. Mm-hmm. But if you're actually openly in front to all Masons on that page saying, nope, not going to do it. And there was one person, I don't remember who it was, commented that said, well, if you are refusing somebody from a recognized Prince Hall Lodge, then you can be filed on Masonically, because you have to let them in. So, and I was like, yeah, bravo.
They should shut down lodges if brothers, if I ever become Grand Master, I promise that if I ever see a lodge like that, I'll pull their charter. That just makes me so upset, even thinking about a lodge having that kind of a mentality.
Well,
That
it's not
if
the lodge.
if you belong to a lodge proudly, no, he said that nobody there his lodge wouldn't allow it. So if that lodge feels that way, then they need to be shut down.
I mean, I'll just say this. I don't disagree with you, but when you say the lodge, you shut down the lodge. What happens? It's like stepping on a box that has a lot of cockroaches in it, right? The box is crushed, the roaches just find somewhere else to go hide. See what I'm saying? It's not the container that's the issue. It's what's inside.
The individual.
Yeah, they need to be taken out of fraternity because you take the charter away. They just go to another lodge and spread their hate.
That was a stunning analogy. You woke me up with that.
Filthy cockroaches. Yeah,
that's funny.
Um,
Justin knows cockroaches.
Yeah, you said look at the board. There's not really a whole lot. Like I said, there was kind of a crazy guy a little bit ago talking about he's telekinetic and has imaginary friends and wants to be a Mason, but he's gone now. He's gone. But other than that, I mean, most of the stuff. There was a comment earlier, David Lawson. I don't know if he was talking to. No, he wasn't. So one of the comments one of the things that Master Masons say that he didn't like, that's how I'm taking it anyway, is to be an ask one, which I think those bumper stickers are overdone.
Yes, I don't like that either.
And then Kirk Otto asked if we're going to talk about the charges, and no, we are not going to talk about the charges. We're gonna be safe here. And then David Lawson says they had a Prince Hall brother come to one of their floor schools, and they were working on an EA degree. He was the candidate. They went all the way through. We loved it, and so did he. It was great. Yeah, I mean that's how we're supposed to be able to behave. All right, Jason,
we're not going to talk about the charges, but you like how my hat matches my shirt?
Oh, I was actually
nice and gray, and
I was actually just looking at my favorite coin a little bit ago. I don't have the colored version. But it's still my favorite one. But all right, Jason, I see you have your hand up.
Yes. Okay. So just going back to, and I've already lost who said it. That he heard our Master Mason say that the obligations didn't mean anything to him. And yes, Justin and Dennis, y'all can close your ears. I'm going to talk about the Elks for a bit. But
my gosh!
Just to relate a story. So some of y'all know.
Here we go.
And I've heard. Yeah. At one point, I was up in the state leadership with the Elks, and there was a district deputy that he was online, and he was doing a lot of things online that you would consider not elk worthy. Things like so the Elks have a stand that they are anti-drug, they are anti-marijuana. Whether you agree with it or not, if you are in the Elk leadership, you're expected to, not publicly, go against that. Well, he's out there, he's promoting marijuana use and all this kind of stuff, and whatever. But as a district deputy for this organization. And the other thing was he was starting to post things that, made it was clear that he was an atheist. And just like Freemasonry, you can't be an atheist and be an Elk. So I brought this to the attention of a past state president who at one point was a Grand Lodge officer and stuff like that. I said, "Hey, look, he's doing all this stuff. He's also posting these really sexually charged and obscene jokes and stuff like that." And I said, it really kind of looks bad on what we're trying to do here, and he really should be conducting himself better. And the statement that I got was, well, I don't know how much of our what we do in the Elk should affect our actual lives. And I was like, so
That's funny.
So this obligation that I took to support my fellow brother and to conduct myself honorably and stuff like that, that's so basically what you're saying is that it's meaningless and stuff. And you know what, probably in about, I would say probably about a year later is when I stepped down from everything. I was involved at the state, district, local, Grand Lodge level. We're talking about national Grand Lodge level. And I resigned all in one day. I resigned from every single thing and took a demit from the Elks for about 2 years. And because and there was a lot of other things that were going on, but that was kind of the start of me going like, you guys really don't believe this stuff. You just did that initiation ceremony and that was it. You didn't think about it. You didn't apply it to your life. You didn't learn any of the lessons or anything like that.
Hey,
so.
random question, and there's no real reason behind this, but you said it was an equivalent of a past Grand Master that you had asked that question to?
State president.
How old was he?
At the time, he was probably in his mid 50s, I guess.
Got you.
Something like that.
Got you. At the time, how long ago was that?
No, this has been now probably about 5 years ago.
Interesting. Very
Okay.
interesting. Let's look here.
That was random, and now I'm questioning why you asked it.
Just no, I just for my knowledge, I had actually a comment I was going to make and I forgot what it was going to be, but dang it. Oh well.
Those kind of people are called joiners.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of them.
We do.
But I could see where somebody who's a Master Mason telling somebody else that, hey, these obligations don't mean anything. You know, like, that's the whole crux of. That's where we start. We start with an obligation. So to say that that's just meaningless, your whole foundation then is just.
Well, I think we tell a lot of people that it's symbolic, and it is, right? You don't actually see the penalties or anything ever being enacted on anybody, but that it's not to say it's not meaningful. It's not to say you're not still taking an actual obligation upon yourself, right? You're still taking an oath to behave a certain way, regardless if the penalties are symbolic or anything like that. You should still conduct yourself, and you do that before God, before your Masons, before your brothers, before your lodge. So it's if you would put your hand on Holy Bible and swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in court, and then lie and feel completely have no remorse or guilt about doing so, then you shouldn't be a Mason. But that's the equivalent, because you're saying that you can, regardless if you think it's symbolic or real or anything like that, if you would put your hand on something like that, a book that you consider holy, and swear to do something and not do it and just think it's meaningless, I really question your integrity and your moral character.
Right. I don't know. Maybe we should start enforcing the penalties.
Yeah, I mean that never bit us in the butt when people thought we did that, did it?
That might take care of
it. I thought that was my option. Yeah. I thought we could do that. I didn't know that we couldn't. So, don't tell anybody. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just messing around with my graphics a lot.
Oh, it's fine. I'm just
What else is on y'all's mind that y'all would like to talk to the world
Yes,
about?
what else is on your mind that we could talk about on a live stream?
So I wanted to bring up, you know how we brought up that what you put into it is what you get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm an over-the-road truck driver. I'm not at home or near my lodge very often, but I do find my other mentors and other brothers where I can get what I want out of it.
Yes.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I do the same thing. I'm very rarely at my home lodge anymore because, frankly, I'm usually either at Scottish Rite or I'm somewhere else giving a presentation.
I'm a firm believer that as far as you get out what you put into it, a lot of independent bodies exist solely because they're providing a certain type of value that that brother is not receiving at the Blue Lodge level. Like we say that all the degrees, there's no degree higher than Master Mason, and everything just expounds further upon the lessons you are taught as a Mason, as a Blue Lodge Mason. Well, then by that logic, these things, this is value that could be provided at the Blue Lodge level, but it's not. And so that's why people go to like the Scottish Rite, the York Rite, and whatever to try to find that. And you could say, well, they also do it because they can't get positions at their lodge. They want to go through a line or something. Well, that's fair. I question why they joined. Like, why would let them in if that's what they wanted? But that's fair too. Like a lot of people do go through these other organizations so they can go through the line. But if that's the value that they're looking for, they probably should just be a lion or an elk or something.
Go back to your animalistic roots.
Just pick an animal club.
Pick an animal.
Golly.
Burn. Get your animal
Good time.
cookies out. Get your animal cookies out and just toss them on the table and see which one comes up face up.
What do you got?
That was bad.
What do you got, Justin?
Well, so something that I kind of wanted to bring up, kind of almost, I guess, along the lines of what we've been talking about. I had an interesting conversation. My district has had a lot of degrees here lately, and my lodge has a floor school every Monday, and we invite all these people, all of the districts, all the lodges in the district, to come practice with us. We, everything from opening and closing to the degree work, and I went to a degree. I had recently just really learned a good part and had it did it really well in the degree. So I went to this other lodge's degree and I told them, I said, hey, this is what I can do, because they needed help. And I said, look, I can do this part. And it was told to me that, oh, we're going to let so-and-so do this part because he really wants to work on it and get better at it. And I watched them go through this degree, and like many other degrees outside of my lodge, some of there was almost cringy. I hate to say that, but it was almost. I'm sitting there and I'm just like, oh gosh, and I'm looking at the guys in the degree and I'm thinking, man, I've invited each and every one of them to come to floor school, and I had a talk with our DDGM after the degree, and he told me, he said, man, I can't believe it. And I told him, I said, yeah, I said, so and so, I offered to do this one part. And so-and-so said he wanted to let this other guy do it so he could get better at it. And we both agreed that the degree itself
you get better at floor school.
It's not. Yes. That's not the place to get better at it.
The degree itself is not the place to. Yeah, I agree. It's not the place to start learning how to do it.
And I don't know if I have to believe that other lodges experience the same type of issues, but it's really frustrating though, because. And again, I'm almost afraid to say this, but I harp on one thing that Dennis said in one of the previous lives. I'm watching for his head to get bigger right now, but he made a good point about attire and the way dressing and letting a brother know that a new Mason that we're bringing in initiation, that we thought that night for him was so important to us that we dressed appropriately, that we took the time to dress right. Well, I apply that to the degrees, to the work that I practice and to do that degree, because I want that brother, that new Mason, to get the best experience that he can in his degree. Mm-hmm. And it really irritates me when you've got a group of guys putting on a degree that, they haven't been working on it. They haven't practiced it probably since the last degree 6 months ago. And they weren't that great at it then. So, where did we stop thinking that it was important to give this guy the best degree. Instead, it's selfish that we just want to be a part. We just want to do this one part, and that's more important to us than if we're good at it or not.
I agree. We have one of the strongest degree teams there is in Goliad, and we have floor school. I've mentioned it several times. We have floor school every Wednesday, and while the brothers are learning floor school, the floor work upstairs, you've got the new Masons doing the catechism downstairs. So they see that it's that important to the lodge that they're supposed to keep coming on Wednesday even after they get the degrees. Well, at floor school, we're so particular, and I wouldn't say that this was my doing, because this was really, other brothers. We've got 2 district instructors in our lodge, and our floor school is so serious about the work that they don't even want you to practice a part if you hadn't gone through it with somebody beforehand and actually know the words. They don't want you to go in there to have somebody telling you each word of the degree to learn how to do the work. They want you to already have a good idea of how it plays out before you start practicing on the floor, because then it becomes just a waste of time and everybody else is just sitting around watching one person get fed word by word by word.
Well, actually,
and so I completely agree. I completely agree, especially not inside a degree, an actual degree.
The DDGM made a great point, and I couldn't help but agree with him. He said that's exactly what was going on, Dennis. Was you had the candidate, and then you had the person who had the speaking part, but there was also somebody who was waiting for his part right next to the candidate, and you've got person 1 feeding the line to person 2 who's supposed to know it, and then person 2's feeding it to the candidate. And the DDGM said, I would almost rather, if a guy forgets his line or he realizes he didn't know it as well as he thought he did. Well, he said, I would rather the guy that does know it standing next to him just to go ahead and do the part. Mm-hmm. And it's like, right. And I think that should be honestly, I think that should be a thing. It's like, hey, just everybody understands that if you forget your part and you have to look at the guy next to you, like, line, please, then just let him go ahead and say the line so that the candidate's not sitting there in his condition hearing it twice.
Well, even if he's not in the condition,
right?
He doesn't know who's supposed to be saying what.
Yeah,
he doesn't know. But I wholeheartedly agree. And here's the thing: I think as a fraternity, going back to this peace and harmony that we put up on this huge pedestal, is that when someone wants to do a role in a degree, we're afraid to tell them no. Right? We're afraid to say, okay, but you have to come to practice. We have to see that you know how to do it. And if you can't do it, then no, you're not going to have the role. We're afraid to do that, right? Because a lot of us probably feel like it's hard to get people to come to degrees or whatever, or we just want that. We just want to keep that peace and harmony. But we need to. We have to start having high expectations of ourselves, and it's the same thing with the officers of the lodge. I think requiring officers to actually turn in work and demonstrate their proficiency to open and close all the degrees and everything, I think that's great. And I think too many district instructors don't take it very seriously. And I know that for a fact that they don't all take it very seriously. But it's things
we don't
like
allow
that.
somebody to do it. We don't allow anybody to do a degree if they don't show up to practice.
No, and
if they're not at practice right before, or even several weeks, they're gonna give the part to somebody who's been studying, steadily on and making the effort, and not just give it to anybody that jumps into
the time to get experience for a degree is not during a degree.
No,
it's not. And the time to learn that a guy didn't know how to do it is also not during the degree. It's the same thing with the officers. The time to learn that this guy doesn't know how to open the lodge is not after he has just been installed as martial master, right? We should know this. And frankly, by the same token, we should not we should not put anyone in a position. We should not elect someone to a position until we know that they can do that. The reason that we have it now with the district instructor, I know I'm kind of on two things, but it's the same thing in my mind. The reason we have it now where a district instructor has to say this guy's proficient to open the lodge is because the lodge themselves was not taking care of business. Sorry. Alan,
Right.
do you have something?
What you got, Alan?
Oh, sorry, I'm doing it on my phone. It's a little bit hard to unmute. You know, I sit here and hear these struggles from y'all talking about setting up for studying for a degree, and I wish I had those struggles. I mean, we set up for a master's. This would have been 2-3 months ago now, and hell, it was me and my father-in-law there for the study night. Like, I wish that we had the struggle of, hey, this guy's just not ready. We're going to put somebody else in this position. And we had 2 people show up for a degree to study for a master's.
Wow.
We sat there and did it together, the whole thing, all the way through. And it's good to see that. I mean, I got especially having my father-in-law. I mean, it's pretty awesome being able to do that. But that's our biggest thing in my lodge right now is you have a bunch of people saying, hey, we want to get studying, we want to start studying, but it happens right before a degree is getting put on, and that's it.
Yeah, that's
really love our district instructor.
We had our struggles too. Don't get me wrong. You know, this is 6 years in the making now of this, this study, and in the beginning it was just like that. Sometimes it would just be one person that's sitting there with a pot of coffee looking around waiting for people, and then decide to just start practicing on their own. But now, it is so important that it is generally, and I'm not joking, it is generally 10 to 15 brothers upstairs doing floor school while there's 2 or 3 brothers downstairs doing catechism.
That's good.
And so it takes a while, but stay with it. Make a specific night that doesn't interfere with any other body, and make it happen. And then afterwards, we go out to eat and drink over at Jalisco's after that practice. So it becomes a social thing afterwards. I mean, it's adding value. My lodge is kicking on all 8 cylinders right now. I'm so proud of them. That, and that's not from anything I'm doing. That's all of them. But it took time.
That's great. I'll be right back.
Okay,
Justin, if you had something.
What you got, Justin?
So, kind of going on, I failed to mention earlier that, David Lawson runs our floor school at Faith Lodge and does an amazing job, not just running it, but recognizing, who's stronger and what, and gets those people, if he knows that somebody's hasn't really done one part, whether it be a degree or anything, closing and opening a lodge, whatever, he'll point you out. He calls you out and he's like, okay, well, yeah, you're in this seat tonight, and because you need to work on it. Okay, great. But I kind of touching back on what Alan said, for my lodge and lodges in my district and even outside my district. One thing that's and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of a pet peeve. I've watched those that were going to confer the degree, 20 minutes before the degree was going to start picking his degree team. And one of the pet peeves is I've seen more than one person do it. When they start putting their team together, they, instead of picking the people that have been going to floor school every Monday, or people that he knows has done this part a million times and is proficient at it, they prefer to go to the older senior members. And their words, this came from one person. When I asked why, because they couldn't do it. They got up there and they would get part of it, but they would stumble so bad. And I said, why do you do that? And he said, well, they're the older members and they've done this for 40 years. And, they just feel like they're not needed anymore. And I want to make sure that I remind them that they are needed. I'm thinking, okay, but what are you sacrificing? You know,
Yeah.
We do need them. We need them to teach us what they know, but not in this moment. And
Right.
I also want to say that, and this is kind of comical, not in a good way, but I don't know how many degrees I've been to outside of my district where I showed up and, you know, unfortunately it's due to membership, you know, low attendance and membership. But I actually had to, the last master degree I went to, I actually played 2 parts at the same time. And I don't mind it. I love to help out. I love degrees, but, and they don't have a choice. I mean, there was like maybe 7 of us that knew the work, you know, and what are they going to do? So yeah, there was 3 of us that were doing, in the masters. I'm sure you know which 2 parts, you know, and,
Yep.
we had number 1. If you were number 1 in one, you were number 1 in the other, going back and forth. And as long as you weren't talking to yourself, but, and it sucks, you know, and their issue is a membership problem, but I start to see little hints at that closer to home.
And why do you think there's a membership problem? That's my point in many conversations is, you know, those are the things that cause membership problems. Those are the things that will cause a young man to leave our lodge, is when we pay too much tribute to our mentor generation, that we don't allow people who are ready to go to do the job. You know, one of my favorite mentors, his name is Joe K. Hooten, and he was district instructor for years. He's now got a lifetime award, you know, the lifetime certificate, because he's been proficient so long. But he's got the lifetime certificate, and he has personally taken himself out of the degree teams because now he's 82 years old and he's forgetting a lot of the words. And so he took himself out to let the new younger brothers jump in and take hold of it, for that reason, that it should be as good as it can be for the candidate. It has nothing to do with us as members of the lodge. It has everything to do with the candidate themselves. And I strongly agree with that.
Yeah. You got to put that ego on the side sometimes.
Yeah, he's the one that has always told me, if it's good for the lodge, do it. If it's not good for the lodge, don't. And man, he lives it. He's one of my favorite Blue Lodge mentors. He really is.
Nice. Alan, you got something else? Oh.
Yeah, I'd say one thing when it comes to, you know, you're setting up the degree team. There's definitely going to be a few times where, you know, you're going to have that prompter. You know,
yeah,
no matter how good you are, you're gonna stumble up a little bit. But that's one of my biggest issues is you need to be at your best with the degree work. And if you stumble, and if it's something that like if you're doing the lecture, you got a new EA and you're doing the lecture. I've witnessed somebody who I really look up to in my lodge give a lecture, and they were doing so good. They missed a pretty good section, and I didn't even notice because the rest of it was so smooth until afterward. They came to me and said, "Man, you see where I messed up?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, you."
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the EA that's coming through, they're not. I mean, there might be some brothers coming through that you know, they just have that memory where they're going to know they missed something. But for the most part, I think when you have a lodge, like I witnessed a lot in my lodge, even just opening and closing, you know, for meetings, you have too many people sitting there chirping up. It detracts from the whole process.
Yeah.
When you have 3 or 4 people trying to chime in, it's like,
that's the worst. There should only be one.
Yeah, and the worship master should appoint somebody. Say, hey, if I mess up, it's going to be this guy. And as far as the degrees, like you're talking about, the candidate doesn't know. He doesn't know. And really, what you're doing is it's a rite of passage, but that's by that same token, he's probably not going to remember a lot of it. He's going to remember if it feels bad. I think a candidate can always tell if nobody knows what they're doing, right? They can always tell because you're not confident. You're messing up a lot, You get a lot of prompting from the sidelines and things like that. But like has also been pointed out, no matter how good you are, you're going to make a mistake. And so, and I think you had the perfect example. You're really giving a performance for this person, right? You're introducing him to concepts that he's going to be spending the rest of his life studying. And so if you miss, hopefully, yeah. But if you miss a paragraph or two or three, honestly, like an entire section, I think I've messed up before giving a lecture. It's important to, well, I know I've messed up before giving the lecture. I don't know if I messed up like a whole section, but I've seen it. But if you could just move on seamlessly, he won't know. He will never know. And in fact, I think the people that they're like, oh, I messed up. Let me start over and go back and do this. First of all, that detracts from the solemnity, in my opinion, because it's not smooth anymore. But also, who are you really doing that for? You're not doing it for him because he's not going to remember. You're doing it for those past masters on the sidelines, so that they don't come up to you after and be like, "Oh, you missed this whole section. You're stupid. You suck. You fucking suck. I hate you." But I forgot we're live. Sorry, but
dang.
But you know that you're afraid they're going to do that. You're afraid they're going to be like, "Oh, you don't know what you're doing. You're incompetent." So you want to go back and redo it, the whole thing. You're doing it for the candidate, and as long as it's just like a performance, like at a theater. As long as you can improvise or make it look like you didn't miss something, and just the show must go on, right? You don't see it at a theater with like, oh, I missed a line. Hold on, everybody. Let me back up and do this. You just keep going. You always move forward, and they don't know the difference.
Adam, do you have anything still?
Yes. This is kind of out of left field. If that's okay. I talked about a couple brothers about this a week or two ago. But I just wanted to put it out there in the ether just because it crossed my mind again. We were talking about and I won't go into anything specific, but a lot of the stuff that's been going on with the Grand Lodge and stuff the past year, and we were talking and we were like, what? You never hear this about like the Grand Lodge of Maine or like the Grand Lodge of, Minnesota. But you have heard it a lot of things from here in Texas. Of course, we live here. Maybe like South Carolina and I think Tennessee or something in the last few years.
Yeah.
But it's like this kind of stuff isn't too common. And we were talking, we're like, what could cause that for us? And something I hadn't thought of before that I'll give credit to the other brother, he brought it up, was that we are both geographically and population-wise a massive Grand Lodge, at least when it comes to the United States. Mm-hmm. And he said, Adam, maybe it's a problem that we're so big, or maybe even not that we're so big, but the way we're governed as a Grand Lodge, maybe that's an issue. Because like, I would love to hear like a paper on the Grand Lodge functions of other Grand Lodges, like how they govern and the powers of their Grandmasters and stuff. Because I don't know too much about it, but I know like the United Grand Lodge of England, they have 40-something provincial Grand Lodges within them, just within England. And then outside of England, if I understand correctly, like the Channel Islands and some other things, they have what's called district Grand Lodges. And so my understanding is that they almost have some type of a federal system where effectively we are just like I don't know how else to say it, like a one state thing with districts within it. And I just wonder if like some type of federal thing like that or something where powers and rulemaking is broken up more administratively, if that would benefit us. I was just thinking about that. But
can I add something real quick to that?
Yeah, sure.
And I see you, Justin, but I think you don't see this happening in Grand Lodges where they have Grandmasters that do longer than a year. You see this happening in Grand Lodges where, and I've talked crap about this process so many times, where it's assembly line, just like you have at the lodge level, and the leadership makes all the difference. It's always like when you hear about those other states, it's usually around the time that they just install their new Grandmaster, and it's some random dude who probably he's a member, not necessarily a Mason, but he got through the West Gate. He knew the right people, and he has no idea what Freemasonry is or how it should operate. And that's when you start hearing about it in the Masonic news.
It's leadership by necessity and not.
Yeah. But you don't hear. I don't agree with a lot of things like the Grand Lodge of England has done lately, but you don't hear drama. You don't hear like, oh, their leadership's such a mess or anything like that. And it's because you get one guy that's competent, and he's a Grand Master, and it is what it is, and until he's done, until he's ready to be done with it. And I mean, Brett Billings has told me, I think on this show before, that anyone that thinks that you should do more than 1 year as Grand Master is crazy because of the amount of work that goes into it. But there's no rule that says if you do 2 or 3 years, you can't spread all that stuff over that period of time. There's a lot, you cover a lot in a year. You could, granted, you have your annual stuff like Gonzalez and things like that. You still hit those things, but you could spread out a lot of things over a longer period of time if you're spending more time in the Grand East. And it's not such, I suspect it's just like at the lodge level, because when you finish your first year as Martial Master and you're going out, that's when you realize, hey, I finally kind of got the hang of things, right? And so I think it's probably the same thing for Grand Master. By the time your year's up and you're ready to go and you're done, you're probably feeling like, hey, I kind of finally have the hang of things. My 2 cents.
Go ahead, Justin. The other Justin.
So, real fast, because I kind of want to touch on what we're talking about, but if you don't mind, I'd like to go back, and I'd actually like to read a comment from David Lawson, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We'll permit it.
Thank you.
Yes, since Jones isn't doing it.
No, well, it's not really a question. It's more of a comment. He said we're talking about, degrees and the proficiency to do it. He said, one thing I see coming down the line is we have 4 A certificate holders in our lodge. I am 61 and the youngest A holder. We desperately need some younger guys working now to get A certificates. And the comment I want to make to that is, which I absolutely agree with 100%. I actually didn't know that, but I was talking about getting my A certificate, and this was told to me that, well, because right now I'm the junior deacon of my lodge, and I said, yeah, I'd like to go to OLT and get my certificate. Well, and this was told to me, you don't need it. And I said, why not? And I said, well, because you're only going to need that if you're going to the southwest or the east, and you still got some time before you get there. And my thought is why don't I need that training if it'll make me a better person all around in the lodge to have that OLT training, that officer leadership training? Why not let me get that? And to tell somebody that they don't need it because the only reason that you need that is because you're going into one of the top 3 officer spots is absolutely just baffling to me. But one thing I want to talk about, I really like the idea that Justin was talking about as far as Grand Masters go. One of the way I look at Grand Lodges, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of look at it like in Texas, where the Grand Lodge of Texas is sort of like the capital of Texas, right? And then you have all these other lodges. And I look at Grand Lodge of England as kind of like the government body. And then, the other Grand Lodges of like London or whatnot, well, that's going to be your capitals, your capital buildings, and then the lodges within them. And it's sort of like our government. But unless I'm wrong, England has the Grand Lodge of England, that their own country has their Grand Lodge, but America doesn't have a Grand Lodge of America, so there's nobody to govern the Grand Lodge of each state. Who are they answering to?
Right.
They should be answering to their Grand West.
Sure. So,
and that's the way ours is supposed to be built upon, because I think they follow that that structure because they're used to the patriarch type um, government, and not necessarily uh, not that they're used to it, but they were established through it, and they still have the Duke of Kent that's the Grand Master, and he's just always the Grand Master, and the Deputy Grand Master is the only one that changes. The it I think it's a little bit different because of that, but with the whole establishment of America, and it's even said, uh, Scott, we were talking about the brother that wrote those books, and which I've got mine ordered. I'm waiting, but as soon as we came to America, we started doing things different from the way that the Grand Lodge of England was done, and we started bastardizing Freemasonry, at least the structure of Freemasonry from what it originally was, as soon as they came to America. And so when they did the Constitution for America, of course, a lot of that's going to bleed into Freemasonry and vice versa, because you have the same guys that established the lodges that established the country. And so a lot of that stuff is going to be tit for tat. And so if they moved away from it so readily way back then, I think there's no return at this point. But I think that's why it's still the same, and the reason why it's set up the way it is, because we are so headstrong on freedoms, and each state being its own sovereign state and whatnot. Go ahead. You can probably explain it better, Scott. You've read the book. I haven't, but I figure that's probably a big factor, is the formation of our country was a big factor in the way our Grand Lodge system works as well.
Yeah, you touched on that, and that is correct. The colonies at the time viewed themselves, and of course the different colonies became states. They viewed themselves as even when we became United States, they viewed themselves as a country within the United States. Your Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, so on and so forth, all the way down the seaboard at that time. They viewed themselves that way. And so they thought, well, we should have our Grand Lodge this way. If there ever was a chance for a national Grand Lodge to be established, it had to have been in the early stages of the United States.
Yeah.
To think of something like that nowadays is just, it's unfathomable. And mostly that's because we're looking at 200 years of presentism, over 200 years of presentism. That's, and it really is kind of hard to imagine for such a vast area to have a Grand Lodge of the U.S. So many states and everything. I'll tell you this. Knights Templar, they have a Grand Encampment of the United States, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So how are they doing it? I'd be curious. How is it working for them? I don't know. I can't answer that. That's probably a Ricky Cox question or something like that, or
right.
One of those guys. But that's something to think about. But I don't know if that could ever be the case, that we could ever have that.
You'd effectively be asking existing Grand Lodges to be willing to abdicate a percentage, so to say, of their authority to someone higher, right? It's the same reason you'll never see Prince Hall in Grand Lodge of Texas merge, because now you're abdicating. Like if I've been going through the process of going through the Grand Line in this Grand Lodge, and now we're going to merge together, what happens? Who goes where? You end up with people that have been working for a period of time. It sounds terrible, but it's really the reality. they're
It
interested in
is.
their positions. They're interested in the power that comes with it. And so now, who's Grand Master? Who's gonna be a Grand Junior Warden? How's that gonna work? Am I supposed to step out? That's why people are like, hey, we should merge. It's never gonna happen. By that same token, I'd be willing to bet that the Grand Encampment was founded around the same time as the Grand Commanderies of each state. I'd be willing to bet those probably coincided around the same
Back in
time.
those days.
Yeah, but you'll never see that in the United States. I'm sure there are people that think it's a great idea, and I'm sure people have tried. But I mean, could you imagine Grand Lodge of Texas, regardless of the Grand Master? I mean,
we would have to practice
ever, huh?
We'd have to practice Freemasonry to do that, because we would have to accept that some states are red and some states are blue, and not think about that, and be able to work with other people with different opinions and things like that. We would have to evolve as a better human species, as a better Masonic species, to be able to pull something like that off, because there's just too many egos and too many hard right and hard left ideals.
It's like this, like we said,
America.
like I said earlier. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of stuff the Grand Lodge of England has put out in the last decade or so. I don't agree with their approach to things. I don't really want them making decisions. Granted, their decisions are could impact us here in Texas, but I don't like them having a direct control over the things that we pass in Texas. So what if you had like a Grand Lodge of the United States, and like you said, it doesn't matter what your political affiliation or anything like that, but you end up with things being passed down that we're expected to follow as a state that we don't necessarily agree with. I think there's value in having a state Grand Lodge, but I would also, in that same breath, I would say probably the system itself needs to be reevaluated, and I don't know what that answer needs to look like. I would definitely say that we need to slow down the line, not just at the grand level, but at the lodge level too. But aside from that, I don't know really what it needs to look like. I would almost say like maybe it needs to be like you have the Grand Lodge that oversees smaller compartmentalization of the state or something like that. But I don't really know. I don't know what that would need to look like or anything like that.
We do have, it's not a Grand Lodge, but we do have an association for all the Grands to get together in America. We do have an association. I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but we do have it, and they do get together every year. They have an
kind of
annual
Northwest,
communication.
like Steve Almager talks about sometimes.
Well, no, that's a different kind of a coalition kind of a thing. This is the full on every Grand Lodge has a seat at the table thing. And it usually happens in Washington, I think.
I see.
But we do have something like that. It's just not an authoritative thing. It's more of a think tank kind of a thing, to where they all get together and, show their feathers and hopefully talk about what's best for Freemasonry. But that there is that out there. I'd have to look it up, but I know that it's out there.
But back to something Adam said earlier, I do think that Texas is probably too large for the current setup. Like if you go to Grand Lodge, you'll have a handful of guys that came from El Paso, and they spent thousands of dollars to have a presence there, as opposed to me, who's 45 minutes. Right, I take a day off and drive. It's not really equal representation across an entire state, and technology has not helped that, especially since we don't do any live streaming or anything like that. Technology has not helped that, because you still have a massive state, and you got a lot of people that are driving really far away, in some cases getting airplanes to come. El Paso is closer to Grand Lodge in New Mexico. I think it's closer to a Grand Lodge in Mexico. I don't remember which one it would be, but
El Paso's the same distance for me as it is to go to Little Rock, Arkansas. Same distance.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just shows how big the state is. So again, I don't know what it needs to look like, and I'm not advocating a complete change of the Grand Lodge. So I'm not being revolutionary, for the record. not being revolutionary. I'm just saying there's some. It's hard to say we meet on the level when one guy has to take a plane to have the same vote as the guy that could drive 45 minutes to
Right.
have his say. What's up, Justin? What do you got?
Well, one of the things I thought was really interesting, and after now hearing what you had to say about the United Grand Lodges and stuff like that, I kind of agree with that. Honestly, I would hate to see as a lodge stuff my state masonry doing stuff that it's coming out from elsewhere from far beyond. Just like I hate to see my state having to deal with laws out that other states propose. It's working in that state, not necessarily going to work here. But one thing I found was interesting. You're talking about Grand Lodge and who's going to Grand Lodge. Is I have one of the members at my lodge is kind of from Washington, and he travels back and forth, and he goes and hangs out with his Mason buddies in Washington. And he told me not too long ago, he said, we were talking about Grand Lodge and going and not going, and he said, it's interesting how in Washington, their Grand Lodge is tiny compared to ours. He said the building and everything, he said it's just super small. And he said, and when they have their yearly thing, only 2 or 3 people from each lodge is allowed to go and represent. And I was like, and on the one side, talking about the issues that we're talking about, that I think that would kind of work if they could go, barring travel issues. The other side of that is you got people like me who would just love to go to experience that. That's one of the big reasons that honestly, that's the only reason I would want to go to Grand Lodge, is to experience at one time on that massive level. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I don't really have any reason why I would want to go to Grand Lodge. Maybe if I was a voting, if I was in a position to vote, or something like that, absolutely, probably, because I'd want to be involved in my masonry. But outside of that, I'm not, a past master or anything. So I have no reason to go other than just to see it. But I'm wondering, would it work if our Grand Lodge was limited to only so many people from that lodge?
I personally would like to see it where it's just sitting masters and past masters. And I think it was that way at one point, and I think it was changed just because of the reduction. Like, it's a big building. It's kind of silly to it's hard to justify upholding it when your grand session barely fills half the bottom, right? If you just limit it too much. But I do agree, because you have a lot of people that I don't know. But I don't disagree with that.
What I was talking about earlier, it's the Masonic Service Association of North America.
That's it. Yeah, I thought that's what you're talking about, but I couldn't remember the name of it either, because I got that website I used to pull statistics off of. Alan,
yes,
did you have something?
No, Justin kind of said the same thing I was going to start talking about.
Oh,
I personally
Justin.
like
other Justin.
I personally like going to Grand Lodge. So for me, we visit with everybody online and do the Zoom, the podcast, we do Facebook all the time. For me, it's getting to shake a brother's hand that I met up in Amarillo, and we get to meet at Grand Lodge and visit and talk and just solidify that friendship.
Yeah, but you can get to Amarillo by morning.
We're not going to start that tonight, are we?
I laughed, Justin, but that wasn't that good.
Thank you.
That for me, that experience is extremely important. I came the first time I went to Grand Lodge the first time. Man, I may have been senior deacon of my lodge the first time I went to Grand Lodge. But I've enjoyed it ever since. Now, there's certain dinners, there's some pomp and circumstance dinners that we can go to, but there's other venues that that a lot of my friends and brothers get together with. In fact, that's kind of what got the idea going of everybody from the inner circle getting together at Grand Lodge and having a good dinner and talking and hashing things out. Maybe have an education thing or something, just a little tidbit, and then just start talking it out. You know, I dig that kind of thing. That's what I love, is because that's when you can really, when you're together in a room that's somewhat private, in some of these nicer restaurants, you can get them somewhat private. So you're in a room somewhat private, and you can really hash out back and forth the different views and ideas that you have without having to worry about saying the wrong thing on Zoom or saying the wrong thing on Facebook or anything like that. I love that experience. It's not about the pomp and circumstance, though. I like getting dressed up, and I like that we have such a big presence in Waco. When everybody gets together for Grand Lodge, it's a pretty awesome sight. But more so, I like the personal connections that we have when we go to Waco. That's what I love.
So Oscar points out that he's about 200 miles from the Grand Lodge of Nuevo Leon and 400 miles from the Grand Lodge of Texas. Yeah. I mean, it's... all right, we got it. Is it a false flag, Alan? Or we're good?
Not this time. Not this time. Right. No, I kind of want to just kind of piggyback off of what Dennis said. You know, I said earlier, you know, I was raised in 2009, and then I wouldn't say I was a member, not a Mason, but my time in the military kind of had me far and wide. So I really had about a 14-year time period that I was kind of not really involved at all, other than when I would come home on vacation. If I could make it to a lodge meeting, I would. And I got home last year, and in June and January, you know, I went to Grand Lodge, and I don't have a vote. You know, right now I'm currently sitting as senior deacon in one of my lodges. And it was a great experience for me. Like, I enjoyed, you know, meeting brothers that I otherwise probably would have no chance of meeting other than maybe on these Zoom meetings, because they were, you know, so far out. You know, for me, the job I have, it's a little hard for me to get more than just within my district, really. And I see no reason why I'm going to stop going. I mean, I'm going this year, not because of all the stuff that's kind of coming around now, but I truly enjoy it. Alan? I know I've been gone for a little while, so I haven't seen anything on Facebook. But you know, I really just enjoy getting out. I mean, I came to the Masonic Improvement event, and you know, the actual event itself was great, but my favorite thing was sitting at the hotel and just talking with, you know, we're really just listening. I mean, I don't know if I really had too much to say, but just sitting there and listening and getting to hear all the brothers say everything, like that was the best part about it.
I don't remember a lot
from
the hotel.
Yeah.
The event was
fun.
Well, yeah. But yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree, and I think most Freemasonry, like, the education is great. It was Dennis and my event, but it was the education was great. But every time I go to anything, like, the highlight is always talking about what I learned over with my brothers, because that's when I'm really learning how to apply that, if that makes sense. It's one thing to learn it, but then when you're talking with somebody about their thoughts and how you can apply that to yourself or your lodge or whatever, that's when I get a lot of value out of it. So the summit was great. It was awesome. I don't know what else to say about that. It was amazing.
Justin, enable share screen for me real quick.
Okay.
Speaking of Nuevo Leon, I want to share something that pretty cool that just happened to me recently.
How do I do that for?
Hold on. Gosh.
Hold on. Well,
we obviously have the wrong person managing the.
Hey, while he's doing that,
Come
I was
on,
going to
Dennis,
say,
what have you been cheating? Come on.
Okay, here we do.
While he's
I enabled it, Dennis. Look at the bottom and see if you got a share screen button.
Yeah, now it's opened up.
Okay.
Okay. Y'all go ahead. I gotta find it again now.
Well, no, I was gonna say, Brother Allen, next Monday we're doing a master degree at Sol Ross if you want to come.
Sol Ross is awesome. That's an awesome lodge.
Yeah, see, that's. Oh, okay. That threw me off.
Y'all see that?
The screen. Yeah.
Do y'all see that?
What?
This is my.
See what?
Is my. Come on, you got to tell me because I can't see y'all now.
I see your desktop. That's pretty inappropriate.
I definitely can't read it.
Okay, so what this is?
Dennis Yates.
That's right. It says Dennis Yates. So what this is it's my certificate for being the grand representative for the Grand Lodge of Andres Quintana Roo. And so I'm the official Grand Lodge representative between the Grand Lodge of Texas and the Grand Lodge of Quintana Roo, which is Mexico, which is where Cozumel and
what Grand Lodge is that?
And Cancun and all that. The Grand Lodge of Quintana Roo. It's the state Roo? where it's probably said Quintana Roo.
And unrelated news: the Grand Lodge of Quintana Roo no longer recognizes the state of Texas. I don't know if that could be any kind of.
Was that coincidence?
I don't know.
But I just wanted to show y'all that you mentioned Nuevo Leon, and that was something pretty cool that I just got in the other day. Was my official recognition that I'm the representative for them.
Cool, man.
And it's pretty awesome. It's pretty exciting. I'm pretty happy about that. I love the Mexican ritual. It's mostly red degrees, and so it's really awesome.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'd like to see some of that based off what you told me.
Yep.
Cool.
But anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to get everything off track here, get the discussion off track.
So,
but I agree. That's what we get together for is to hash out our ideas. We can watch the ritual all day long, but until we're talking about it, it's doing us no good. Because you don't really learn through osmosis, right? I mean, granted, you are taking it in as you're watching it or whatever. It's harder to take it in as you're giving it because you're worried about the presentation. But when you're sitting on the sidelines, which is what I like to do nowadays, that's all I like to do, is just sit and listen and watch the degree and just fall in love with the ritual. But what good is falling in love with the ritual if you're not hashing it out with other brothers on how it really applies to your life?
Yeah.
And that's something we don't get in Blue Lodge, and you're only going to get that when you're with a group of guys in a safe place to where you feel like you can talk about it without getting in trouble or whatnot. Everything I do, by the way, if we're gonna do a meal or whatever at Grand Lodge, I can assure you, whatever we talk about in our dinners stays in our dinners. So I don't care what anybody says. You can say that you wrangle goats and kiss them on the lips for all I care. I'm not going to tell a soul, because you have to have that sanctity to be able to get to the heart of any matter. Really, you have to have that trust. So that's one of the ground rules with any meetings that I have, that I don't want anybody talking about what we talk about.
Well, that creates I agree wholeheartedly, because if you can't come to like a Masonic improvement event and feel like you can speak what's on your mind without like absurd repercussions, then that defeats the whole purpose of what we're trying to do, I think. And in fact, I really think that defeats the purpose of Freemasonry, because I believe wholeheartedly that we originally were created to be a place where the church wasn't going to come burn you at the stake for the conversations you had, if that makes sense. it was a place for the enlightenment where you can actually have conversations without fear of being persecuted for them. And unfortunately, I think we're kind of going back to that, and or back to where you could be persecuted for the things you say. And Masonic Improvement is not going to be. We're not going to be that place. We're not going to be like that.
Right. Exactly.
Scott
What
said,
else?
Scott said Roberto Sanchez. I'm not sure.
Ah,
And Justin
yeah,
has his
I know
hand up
what's
too.
going on there. I know what's going on there.
I was responding to Brother Oscar. He asked a question. And I
Oh,
said,
okay.
message Roberto.
Oh, yeah, I see that now. What do you got, Justin?
Well, I was just going to say, going back to what you're saying, I mean, it's in our obligation about, what stays between brothers in conversation. And when I'm having a conversation with another brother, because of that obligation, I mean, I always, for the most part, generally expect that whatever I say is going to be between us. Now, I understand that we're humans, and sometimes I feel the need to, and I'm sure we all do it, telling them, hey, what I say, this is on the level, right? And I make sure that I get a verbal, yeah, but for the most part, I try to always, because I go back to that obligation, I try to always think that if I have something to say to a brother, it's going to stay, between us. And I think that that's good that I love to see when anybody's carrying that on. And I, for one, appreciate, that you guys do that.
Well, between Masons, it should be on the level. Now, I can't promise what a member will do, but between Masons, we should keep it on the level. I agree.
Right. Oscar, you actually can have dual membership, plural membership with Mexico, but it has to be a recognized lodge, because not all of them are. So you have to be careful with that. But you actually can have plural membership with a Mexican lodge. In fact, I plan on doing that and going down and getting a plural membership. I was going to do it in Juarez, but because I got several brothers that I love over there, but I think I'm going to do it down in the area where I represent, so that I can really get to know the brothers good.
Oh, Kadim's going to get it in France.
Nice,
yeah. Very cool. Well, guys, it's almost 11. We've been doing this 2.5 hours on a Sunday night. So I know a lot of y'all have work in the morning. I don't.
All right, you pansy.
I don't, but I know a lot of y'all do. But so
I have to work on one of the rent properties.
Do y'all have any final thoughts that you'd like to share any appropriate final thoughts that you'd like to share before we wrap this up and try to get it in for Dennis? What's up, Justin?
I don't know about, I just want to say that this being my first Zoom meeting, I always enjoy the Masonic Improvement Lives, but this experience has been probably one of the best experiences I've ever had in Masonry. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. I love the conversation. I've learned some things, and I really hope that you guys do this kind of live more often, and I'd love to be a part of it. So just want to say thank you guys. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you came.
Glad to have you for sure. Yeah, I enjoy these. 100%. Yes, I will be at the Scottish Rite on the 28th, Trenton. Do not worry. I will be there.
I'll be at the Arkansas Scottish Rite in Little Rock at the Albert Pike Temple.
Anyone else have anything else? Come on, Kadeem. I know you got something you want to say.
I don't know. I won't be surprised if next week we'll see someone putting all the charges out there on Facebook.
Do what?
He wouldn't be surprised if somebody put up the charges next week on Facebook.
Like posted them?
Yeah.
Well,
that's a tough one there.
Yeah.
Because there's only 3 people that are supposed to have it.
Yeah, but no, I appreciate these labs. They're pretty good, and I wish we have them more often.
Yeah, we could. I don't know. I would like to do it more often, but then again, we also have our usual vacations and our families and everything. But we're definitely talking about doing something in January just inner circle kind of thing. So well, details to follow on that. It'll be at Grand Session, Grand Lodge.
Were you talking about another summit, or were you talking about another live with the inner circle?
Oh, live with Inner Circle?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that can be done.
Yeah.
I would love to see like what Dennis
Any given
proposed
Sunday.
earlier. I'd like to see that like a Q&A, like just a straight solid from the inbox type deal. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Ask the inner circle.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be a cool. Yeah, because we could do that for 10 minutes, or no, we couldn't. I could do it for 10 minutes and then let y'all have a chance. But
that'd be one.
We
question.
could do that for 45 minutes or an hour and make that its own segment of another deal. That would be kind of cool. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else? Are there any other nominations?
Would I see you guys in December at the Grand Chapter Grand Council?
I don't know. I'm undecided.
Yeah.
I have a lot going on. What are the dates for that? Do you have that offhand?
Yeah, it's December 7th to December 9th.
Let me look here.
Let me see what I got here. Yeah, if it's not on my calendar.
December's kind of a weird time because the semester's ending for school. We're getting ready for finals. It really depends on when my, let's see here, because I'm
actually open.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna play it by ear because semester finals come up around that time and our benchmarks and all kinds of fun stuff. It's an interesting month, and my wife's birthday sometime that month. I don't remember what day. I'm just kidding. I know what it is. Her birthday's actually the 24th, and she gets mad because I was like, "Do you want Christmas gifts or do you want birthday gifts?" It's not
Mine is April 24th.
Oh, okay.
My oldest son is December 27th. She's in good company.
Yeah, I'm February 31st.
Let's not forget the family day next week.
Right.
The Masonic Retirement Center.
We have, just so that the world knows, the Scottish Rite is in San Antonio is doing our fall reunion this weekend coming up. It's not too late for you to join if you want to. Just get a hold of me, or now let me caveat this because I forget
we got a question on YouTube whenever, so don't be too Dennis-y about your answer.
I got to caveat this with, this is for Master Masons within our valley, and our valley shoots over from Laredo to San Antonio, kind of south to Goliad, down to Lavaca. Can go either way to Galveston or us, but it's kind of all of South Texas, the South Texas region, not just anybody anywhere in the world. So we have our Scottish Rite reunion this weekend. If you would like a petition, get a hold of me, and you can fill it out and bring it with you along with the degree fees, and we'll make you a Scottish Rite Mason. I just wanted to get that out there. That's this weekend for the San Antonio Valley.
That's good.
What was the question, Justin?
So the question,
that's not my closing statement.
No, it's too late. That was it. That was your statement. Tobias Howell says, if we join together as a United Grand Lodge of the United States, where would you like it put? So hypothetically, if we did have one, I don't think Washington's great, because I think that's a big issue. Like the Grand Encampment is like, if you wanted to be involved in it, you have to be able to travel, right? You have to have the money to travel, and if you wanted to change anything, like here in Texas, granted it's a big state, but if something's going on at the Grand Lodge level, I can still get the Grand Lodge, and most Texans can still because really most Texans, if you look geographically, they live in the Texas Triangle, right? So you got DFW, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston, right? So that's where the majority of Texans live, and so they could get to Waco if they needed to within a reasonable amount of time. Houston's kind of a drive, but it's still a reasonable amount of time. And so we could go and vote or express our, well, you'll see in January, right? But if it was like a United Grand Lodge, right?
I would say Kansas.
Yeah, it's kind of what I would think. Somewhere that's central, where most people in the United States would be equally inconvenienced to go to. Like,
Yeah, Alex Powers territory.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Get to hang out with somebody that, a better co-host than, not just kidding. That was bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I love you.
not Oklahoma. Yeah, I was actually thinking Kansas or like Nebraska, maybe like Omaha or something.
Right.
But yeah, definitely. Like, it needs to be central. What's more central than the middle of nowhere in the middle of the United States? But I would not be in favor.
And it'd also be cheaper to go there too.
Yeah, I would not be in favor of such an organization. But all right, Justin, you got something?
Yeah, thanks. Real fast, I know you're trying to end it, but here in Wichita Falls, Texas, North Texas, just to kind of preface this, and I don't know if I'll get in trouble for even saying this, but we had kind of almost lost our chapter in council here. But David Lawson's been working, and some of the grand, RAM chapter and council guys have been working to keep it here. Mm-hmm. And Saturday, we just gave them 8 petitions, myself being one of them, for York Right.
Nice.
And
nice.
So I just wanted to throw it out there that we actually have a festival planned on January 13th in Wichita Falls, and it hasn't been a festival in over a year, I think, cool. Maybe longer. So if anybody in North Texas is interested, instead of traveling around to the DFW area like it used to be, get your petitions into us at David Lawson at Faith Lodge and be a part of it.
There'll be a similar
Nice.
festival early January in Hillsboro for York Rat. So, yeah, definitely that's good. Congratulations. I mean, the benefit of York Rat is one of the disadvantages of Blue Lodge is you can't really invite people that you think would be suitable, for better or worse, right? But York Rat, you can invite Masons that you see are active at the Blue Lodge level that you think will be good fits, right? You think they'll drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak. Like, whatever your mission is, whatever your goal is for the York Rat, you can say this guy will probably toe the line, and he's agreeable and a good guy, yada yada yada. And so that's a big strength of York Rat and Scottish Rite to the same extent. But I think a lot of York Rats are struggling. But we found success, and you're finding the same success by, sounds like, being more aggressive about actively seeking out potential members. So definitely good on you for that. That's really good to hear.
Yep. That's how Mexico does their Blue Lodge. They look for their own members. They don't do the process like we do. They have a process to where they're actually making sure that they're going to be able to afford it, mm-hmm. that they're going to be able to contribute to the business of the lodge. They're making sure that somebody's a real deal, and they're only asking them to join. They're not letting anybody just come in the doors.
But by the same token, we can't invite people to join, but we can invite them to the lodge, right? You can host a dinner and seek out people in the community that you think would be good Masons and invite them to it. But then the issue is, how's the lodge look? How are we behaving ourselves? What kind of food are we having?
How is that one brother going to these dignitaries come in that you invite over?
I mean, if you invite people that you think would be good Masons, but you're embarrassed of your lodge or embarrassed of your brothers, and you're serving chili dogs, right? That doesn't matter if they.
I like chili dogs.
Yeah, you're not gonna impress people with chili dogs. I'm just saying. So it's a process. I think you can invite people, but you have to be actually ready to represent the fraternity in a positive way if you're going to do something like that.
I had a chili dog last night at some.
I'll eat a chili dog at home. That's fine. But like I said, I can eat those at home, right? If I'm going out somewhere, I like something a little better than chili dog. All right, Dennis.
All right.
Go ahead and give us your final thoughts. People are dropping off on us.
You ain't got nothing?
I do.
Well, I'm going to be last. Go ahead.
Well, who says you? You go first.
No,
I'm not going. You go first. Because I'm going to just copy off whatever you say.
I'm gonna do just like they do in Congress, and I'm gonna take the floor until everybody drops off, and it's just me and you, Justin. I'm just gonna keep on talking.
So a typical Sunday.
Any given Sunday, yes. So, all right. First and foremost, I do want to address the elephant in the room, or the elephant in the state. And
dues?
No.
Dress codes?
That would be a whole nother show in itself. All of those are shows in themselves. So, brothers, there's been a lot of talk on Facebook in private Facebook groups. I wouldn't say they're private so much, but they are closed Facebook groups. You have to be a member to be a part of it. There's a lot of talk about dissension that's going on in our Grand Lodge right now, and it's pretty serious. My goal is to remind people that we cannot forget about the tenets that we learn in Freemasonry. We cannot forget that we are brothers. My job, I am my brother's keeper. We have that posted in our lodge room. As you're walking downstairs from the lodge, the last thing you see before you go out the door is a strip that says, "I am my brother's keeper." Some of us take that very seriously. If a brother falls, I'm going to help him get back up. I'm not going to kick him while he's down. I'm going to try to teach him and help him and protect him. That's my nature. And I don't care if I've had conflict with him in the past or not. I think that every brother deserves that at some point. And so I want everyone to keep that in mind in the next few weeks, that we should be looking for the intent in our brothers and not the motive of our brothers. We shouldn't have to worry about motive. We should be able to see the intent in their heart. That's what matters. It's the internal. That's the internal versus the external argument that we should be having right now. And not only when it comes up with suits and ties and bow ties in my case. We need to think about the internal of what our brothers have gone through, what they're doing now, how they present themselves, and how much they love their fraternity. That's what we should be focused on. We shouldn't be focused on putting somebody on a chopping block. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying that on behalf of any Grand Lodge, Grand Jurisdiction, Lodge, or Masonic Improvement. I'm saying that from Dennis Yates. That we need to keep that in mind. In everything we do and say, remember, you got to remember the intent of the brother, because that is brotherly love, and that is what creates peace and harmony. When you are speaking with a brother and you truly believe that what he's saying, even if it's in contradiction of your own thoughts, if you believe that brother is saying what he's saying with good intent, then everything's going to work out in peace and harmony. You'll both be able to walk away, even if you don't agree at the end, loving each other and being able to support each other. If you're not going into the conversation with that in your heart, in your presence, then you're never going to find peace and harmony with that other brother. We're in a point right now to where our Freemasonry lately has been more divided than it's ever been before that I've seen. And the only other time that I can think of that has divided two different groups as strongly is what I've read about between the ancients and the moderns over in Europe. And I would hate for it to come to something like that. Because our mentor generation does have so much to offer. And there are so many that actually want to push us forward in Freemasonry. But we take this stance that it's the old guys that are trying to hold on to the way things were. It's not just the old guys, it's just a collective group of people that are doing this. We have to be the Masons we want to see. We have to be the Masons to those brothers and show them that there is a better way. Now that was to the world. To our inner circle members, I'd like to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for contributing and being a part of our inner circle. It means the world to me. There is nothing that makes me happier than being able to get together with you guys, or texting with y'all, or messaging with y'all, and being able to hash things out. Rhetoric is one of the most important lessons that we learn in Freemasonry, and we should all be able to do that. But I tell you what, it's more special with you guys. I love visiting with y'all and going through some of the topics that we go through, and I appreciate y'all, and I appreciate y'all, all the other supporters online in YouTube. And just remember, if you feel like you're on an island out there, another source from that author. Well, actually, I was saying it before, but he says the exact same thing except in an opposite form. If you feel like you're on an island out there, if you're lodged, if you're not getting what you thought you were supposed to get in Freemasonry, travel. It's out there. Ask Kadeem. He's a diehard traveling man, just like I am. And he gets all the Freemasonry that he wants and more. It's there. It's in abundance. Sometimes you just have to search right outside your lodge to find it. If you can't find it within your district, give us a call. We'll help you find the people, because that's what it's all about, the people. We'll help you find your people. Just let us know. Otherwise, thank you for this evening. Thank you for the great conversations. This was a great night. And I'm only talking so long because I told Justin I was going to. But I love you guys, and we'll talk again some more. Remember that we are Masons. We should be able to discuss things even online and not be so polarized in our thoughts and opinions, and keep it between the points.
Okay, all right, good. This is why you can never.
I was about to say something.
This is why you can never be Grand Master, Dennis, because Grand Session would go on until like the next Tuesday. But
I know it's also why I will never be Grand Order.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
You know, I'm not going to say I am or am not lobbying for a position like that, but it is what it is.
Yes.
I do run around talking to people all the time.
Yeah, I believe that. But I would like to thank also all the inner circle. When we started the whole membership program through YouTube, it was really just to kind of help with Masonic improvement financially. But frankly, this really brought us together into a community in a way that it never was before. Because now we have these Zooms. We're going to have the dinner in January. It's later, Scott. Good seeing you. But
take care, Scott.
Yeah,
thank you.
But the Masonic improvement leveled up because of y'all and what y'all are bringing to the table and to the conversations. So I definitely appreciate each and every one of you, even the ones that couldn't be here. You still make a huge difference on Masonic improvement. Otherwise, I mean, I think Dennis had a very good monologue. He made a very good point. I would just leave with this. It's a little bit of history that I learned recently that's completely unrelated to anything that could be going on at any point, and it's just coming directly from me, and it's not a representation of anybody or anything. I just thought it was interesting. Is that Freemasonry existed before the advent of Grand Lodges, and
Yes.
and really it's not Freemasonry that needs Grand Lodges. It's Grand Lodges that need Freemasons. And so it's just an interesting little thing that a lot of people, in my opinion, probably don't know, or that they overlook, is that Freemasonry can exist without someone looking down at them and telling them what to do. And if that's possible, then it's very interesting. That's all I'm gonna say. But like I said, it's just a little bit of history that's totally unrelated to anything at all that could be going on for the last 9 months at all. So just want to share that. But otherwise, like I said, thank you everybody for coming onto the show. For those of you on YouTube that are watching, thanks Justin, thanks Oscar for hanging on to the very end, even though it's 11:15 on a Sunday night. Appreciate y'all, and we'll catch y'all next week. That's all I got.